Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of Practical Pet Business. Lorin, it is trade show season almost year
It
round these days,
is.
but I think that I want to talk today about how to make a trade show work for you, whether you're a vendor, whether you're a veterinarian, whether you're a store owner. And there's even trade shows out there just for our general consumers. And so if you're in the booth, how are you making that work for you? And if you're attending the booth, how are you making it work for you? So you've done a lot of these. Share a little bit what you're looking for as you're going to a trade show and what you expect.
Yeah. Yes, I've done a lot of them. I love them. I really do. I love going to them. Um, I usually hit the ground running on day one, and by the time the last day rolls around, I actually wish I'd had more time, usually, because it's never enough time. But um, it's interesting too, having done so many of them, to see them evolve over the years. Certainly, the 2020 situation changed everything for trade shows, and how to buy and how to promote your products and that kind of thing. Up to them, Up to then, it was pretty standard. It was pretty much the same thing. I had a budget that I always went past, and I was great with that. I think I deliberately underestimated, so because I knew I would go over. But I would get as much information from my vendors as possible ahead of time. The distributor orders I would write up ahead of time. And I would make sure I got those dropped off on day one, go by, see the new products, ask any questions, that sort of thing, and then start making the rounds. Now, I was always in my favorite spot was the natural space, the natural area. So I would always hit that first because that's where I'd spend the most time. Um, but I think for a lot of people, it's changed so much now that it seems to be offset a little bit. I think where the vendors are and where the retailers are, it's not this like it used to be. You know what I
Right.
mean? It used to be more cohesive. And I think we need to get that back into alignment. And I know some of that is has to do with, the cost of everything has gone up, the cost of goods, the cost of exhibiting, the cost of travel, the overhead, whether you are a retailer or you are exhibiting, you have people that you have to pay for. You have hotels, you have, the regular per diem costs, you have the air cost or gas costs to get there, tear down, set up, all of that. It's not cheap. It's expensive, whether you're exhibiting or you're buying. And you really have to make the most of it. I'm always mesmerized by the people who go and casually walk around, like it's just something to see. And I'm like, gosh, I don't even know what that's like. You know,
Right.
I'm trying to see all the people I need to see. I'm trying to take in all the new products that might fit, because you're always trying to bring in new stuff that would fit your demographic and fit your philosophy. And at the same time, you don't want to miss out on deals. There was a time period there, and I still see this every so often, where you go and exhibitors will only have deals for new people. And that used to really set my teeth on edge, because I'd go, so let me see if I have this right. I put you in my store 2, 3, 4 years ago, whatever it was, and I've come out here to this show to, take advantage of deals and that kind of thing. And I've supported your brand, I've promoted your brand, I've sold your brand, I've stood behind your brand, and you have nothing for me here at the show. So I'm wasting my time with you, because we're not going to appreciate the people that have stood behind us all along. we're only going to have deals for the new people. I think that's a huge miss for brands. I think they need to understand loyalty and that it's a two-way street. And I think they need to continue to support the people that have been with them all the time. And then if you want to do an ISO, for a brand new account, everybody has those. Everybody has ISOs for people that have never bought from them. But you have to make it worth the while of people that are coming out to still support you, stopping by your booth, willing to place an order right there. Maybe would be willing to place, orders for things, Gap products they've never had before, new
Right.
things that you're promoting, those kinds of things. But to just say, oh yeah, we don't really have anything, well, you better come up with something because I'm
Right.
here.
I can't so I let me take it from a vendor standpoint. I have also seen more and more folks just moving away from having show specials, period, which
Right.
blows my mind because if you're going to spend all that time, all that money, there there better be a reason beyond just, well, we've got to be seen there. And I know there are some companies when I ask, what's the intent? Why are we going? Why are you, going to spend the time,
Exposure.
money, the resources? But exposure is more than just being there because to be
Exactly.
blunt, you can buy a ad in those show programs and many of these shows are so big. Oh, I must have missed them.
Mhm.
So let's set a real, what's the goal here? And to your point on the Gap products, but also the reality is there is other products you have. What a great way to put a spotlight on them. Because if you're in the booth, and that's another thing I want to talk about in a second, but if you're in the booth, folks are coming up saying, what do you have that's new? What do you have that's on sale? Like that's your runway to now say, hey, and I would always say have one of our regulars on show special, but let's be driving the new things and maybe where we haven't gotten the traction that we need to because we haven't given folks enough of a reason to want to learn more about the product. Because as a store, you got so much on your plate that you're juggling, and how many people are asking for your time
Mhm.
and energy and educational mind bandwidth. So here's that perfect opportunity to be like, here we go. And we've got a special for you here at the show to say thank you for trying it out, you know.
Mhm.
Um, and I will say too, I had someone reach out who called me and said, so I was at a booth, Rob, and they have a 3% show discount. And I was like, I definitely not someone I've worked with before because there's not much of a impact and it's almost insulting to your point of I guess it's better than a punch in the arm, but it sure feels like it nonetheless.
I would
So
have laughed and said, "You're kidding,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
What's
exactly.
the real discount?"
What's the real discount? Yeah, it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
But I will also say too that I'm seeing um, back on the booth side of things, you know, there was a time when you would have 15, 20 people in a booth manning that to answer questions and anybody that walked up, sometimes it was almost overwhelming of like two people walk up and six people descend. um, I'm hearing the opposite these days and I'm seeing the opposite these days as I go to these trade shows where it's like no one's overstaffed anymore, number one, but number two, there's not that, hey, how's it going, hey, that reach. I don't know if that's just a generational shift or maybe I've just done too many trade shows over my career where I'm there to meet people, I'm there to educate people, I'm there to drive sales. And so sitting in the corner at the little order table, waiting for people to come to me is just not in my DNA. Having a coffee clutch, not in my DNA. We'll have plenty of time set up and tear down and after the show, etc., to catch up. I want to be busy. I want to be making the most of my time because if you think about it, especially if you're one of those sales reps, that's time out of the field. you've got to make hay in those trade shows and really be building the relationships. I love my favorite thing was folks that I didn't have a chance to talk to, see, interact with on a in-person basis. That energy exchange when you're in person is golden. And you can build a career off of that type of relationship. So don't waste those opportunities.
Yeah.
And, you build trust, you build that relationship that lasts a lifetime.
So I have two pet peeves as a retailer.
Yeah.
When I would go
Only
to the
two?
trade shows. Yeah, yeah, really only two.
Okay.
Um, One was so, and I've never forgotten this. This had such an impact on me that I've never forgotten it. And I have never done business with this particular distributor because of this situation. So it was years and years and years ago. I walked up to a booth of a local distributor and lots of people. They must have had 25, 30, all wearing the same shirt, for their distributing company, um, sitting at tables, hanging out, shooting the shit, just with each other. It's not like they were busy. And I want to say it was day one too, because day one tends to be, especially early, still people are coming in,
Sure.
for the show and stuff. So that's why I always like to get there right away. So I go over there, I stand there. I'm not kidding you. I stood there, it became a science project. I stood there, I'm annoyed after 5 minutes. After 10 minutes, I'm like, huh, let's see how long this takes. After 15 minutes, I said, so is this a meeting? I should come back another time. Is anybody available? Nobody's available. Nobody wants to sell me anything. Somebody gets up from the table, walks over, doesn't ask me any questions, hands me an application and some other paperwork, and says, "Well, when you fill this out, you can come back and we'll take a look at it, and we'll have to submit it and everything." I'm like,
Ah,
What?" I'm like, "Don't ask me anything. Don't ask me about my store. Don't ask me where I'm located. Don't look at my badge. Nothing. Don't even look at me."
right.
Clearly I was intruding. And they had the audacity, that distributor, to come into my store multiple times over the following years. And I was like, oh, no, nope.
Yeah.
Because this to me was systemic, because there was management there, and, and nobody thought it was important. And, I wasn't recognizable because I hadn't done business with them before. So it's like, you know, it's nobody. It's like, what,
Yeah.
could be somebody, you never know. The other pet peeve I have, which has really increased over the years, is, back in the day, it was rare that there was a happy hour in the last hour or two of the day at a booth, or that kind of a thing. Now it's everywhere. Everybody's like, "Oh, come back to the booth on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday, whatever day it is, from this time to the end of the show day. Come by, we'll have wine and mixers and we'll have a bartender and beer and all this." That's cool. That's great. Don't have any issue with that. But does business have to stop? Because if
Right.
I don't get to you till that part of the day, then I can't do anything. I can't meet with anybody. Oh, and this has happened in more than a couple of cases. Oh, well, it's our happy hour right now. Great, I'll take a beer. In the meantime, can we sit down or can we walk around and talk about some of your products? And, it's like, oh, well, it's kind of our happy hour right now. Yeah, yeah, I got that. Like I said, take a beer, and it's like, oh, well, I guess. And you feel like, again, that somebody is, looking at their watch going, is this going to take long? No, it's not going to take any time at all. Thanks for the beer,
Right.
and turn around and walk away. Because it's like, we're all here for business and we can do all these other things too. And it has got very much a social event to it. And I support that, because that's the relationship building is everything. But at the same time, while we're sitting down having a beer or a glass of wine or
Right.
whatever it is we're doing. Would you like it if we wrote an order? Because I'd like to do that. And I got money. You want money and you want
Right.
orders. So why can't we do that at the same time? And the sooner that we do this, the sooner you're done with me and you can move on to the social aspect with everybody else, or take a client to dinner, if you missed out on something, whatever. But I see it every single time now. It's oh, yeah, well, this is our social event. It's like,
Yeah.
well, okay, let me know if you want my order at any point in time. I'll be rethinking it in the meantime.
Yeah, and really what's interesting too is while that's going on, 6 weeks later, they start to look at the ROI and the VOI and really decide, do we need to do this next year?
Right.
And if so, justify it. And I think that's lost. If you have not been responsible for both sides of that, um, and I think that's where booth management is just so important. You've got, and I'll say this too. So one of the things that used to be a little frustrating for me was, and I understood it, especially because I had some vendors that I worked with that had to do it. They could not send a large contingent halfway across the country because they had a certain budget. So they would hire someone locally to be in their booth. And you know, I always wanted to make sure, like, who do we have to answer the questions?
Hmm.
Because it's good. I want somebody, I don't want anybody to, I certainly do not want Lorin standing there going, is someone at least going to acknowledge that I'm still alive and standing here breathing at the booth? That's, at a minimum, what these folks could do. Having the brochures, redirecting to, ooh, let me get you connected with so and so. She's our expert on this. So and so, he's our expert on that. And
Or
doing that
so and
one
so is
hand.
busy. Or
Yeah.
so and so is busy. And I
Oh
give them
no.
my
So
card and I go, have them call me on my cell phone when they're
a
free and I'll
hundred
come back.
percent. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And write a little note on the back of that card
Hmm.
where they're from, what they were interested. It's like the art of being a vendor has somewhat been lost. It got to the point too. It's so interesting because as a vendor, the other thing that used to drive me nuts was I love having giveaways, don't get me wrong, but it shifted from the giveaways had a purpose to like, let's come up with the, cutest tchotchke we can. And I'm like, we're not in the tchotchke business. Like, why are you spending that much money on that? Wouldn't you be better off investing that same amount and giving away a sample of your actual product as
You mean
opposed to
like the companies that do the win a such and such watch, or a TV or whatever, and it's like, that's great, I can't get that back. Um, I'd rather have $250 of free product.
well, yeah, and it doesn't even have to be that much.
No, but I'm
What,
saying if you,
yeah, it's like
got a
what
watch or a gift
from
card.
our product line fits in your store's, branding, your store's ethos, and let's send you something. Now I'm stopping as a store and I'm saying, okay, wait a second now. They're willing to invest a little bit on me. They want to hear my story. And by the way, vendors, that was very successful when we would say, hey, give me 10 minutes of your time because I've had some folks that, you know, if you're not an understood product very quickly, and I've worked with a lot of educational products where you've got to explain the product and how it fits in and how it complements their store's philosophy. If your people are saying, give me 5 minutes so I can learn about you, and I'm going to send you something from our product line that will fit your store, no cost to you, they stop. Wait a second. I'm not saying I'm going to send $1,000 of product, but I'm going to send you something that fits your store. Because that's the other part too. I always laugh about the giveaways, and I'm like, wow, that's what you went with. That is going to fit maybe 5 to 10% of the traffic that this particular show is going to drive through here. Um,
Well,
Interesting choice.
it's interesting too because people, to set up a booth and come with all that product and everything like that. And depending on where the booth is, some manufacturers take their product back with them and others give it away,
Mhm.
or sell the booth at the end of the day. And there was such a mooch problem for so long, where people, they would be inundated with people on the last day. And the
Yeah,
shows have gotten better at keeping out the moochers that are really, they shouldn't be there anyway, but they're there just to get free product. They're never going to buy anything. They're not there to get any of your product for their business. They're just here taking, asking, all that other stuff. The vendors would be better off bringing either the limited amount of stuff or specifically created packaging that doesn't have anything in it for trade shows,
right.
which I've seen and has been brilliant.
Yeah,
And it eliminates all the mooch factor. It's nothing in it. There's no weight. It's easy to pack up, all that kind of stuff. And then I would rather have a vendor tell me, well, I don't have any samples to give you. That's okay. Can drop me off something or send me something,
yeah,
so we can give it a try. I'll try it with the clients, or I'll try it in the store. My staff will try it, whatever. We'll put it out by the register for clients to try, whatever it is. And then I don't have to think about it. You can send it to me. You've got my card. Write a little note on the back, send sample,
right.
you know?
Well, and to your point, that was one of the things that a couple of the vendors that I was involved with, we started to do. Um, and yet we would do one show every year where we did have a store that we had prearranged. They wanted to buy everything and save on the cost of shipping.
Right.
And we were going across the country. So it made sense for everybody. It was a win-win.
Sure.
And but I do love that you point that out because in particular, the other thing that happens at trade shows, people want to put their hands on stuff, right? They
Hmm.
want to hold it, they want to feel it. And it gets all moved around, it gets knocked over, it gets beat up. So one of the things we had to start doing was let's bring dummy products. They can hold the bottle,
Yes.
read the box, they can do all those different things. Because by the end, it was not going to be sellable,
Hmm.
usable, etc. But beyond that, it became very quick and easy to put it back on the shelf because it wasn't taking the beating that maybe the normal product would. And for anybody out there going, well, I want to know that and I want to see that. We're talking about hundreds of people grabbing the same bottle. That's not happening at your store. Okay. And if it is, you've got other issues. But I do, and I agree with you. It was really interesting too. Was if you have such a big product line, one of the big challenges everybody wants to show everything they've got. Yet many times they've got a 10 by 10 booth, and there's just too much to show.
Hmm.
And you see this time and time again in displays. Less is more, less is more, less is more. Same thing with the messaging. It's like drill it down. If I can't pick it up in 3 sentences, I'm probably not going to get it with 55 different sentences on your
Right.
props and all the rest of that. Your shelves having 85 products. I have been on both sides of it and walking with stores, and they're like, I kind of love what they do, but there's no way I can get involved with their product because they have too many products, and I wouldn't even
Too
know where
many.
to start.
That's exactly it. As a retailer, you're like,
Yeah,
what are your top sellers? You know, what I mean, I don't need to see that ball in the 9 different sizes that you make it
right,
times 11 different colors.
right,
Take one of each color, and you can have in a different color, a different size, something like that. It
yeah,
just doesn't have to be that massive. And
yeah,
everybody wants to create their own presence when they're there, but from an ROI perspective, I just don't think the ROI is there because your booth is 10 times bigger than someone else's.
right,
It just, I mean, my favorite distributor really didn't have that big of a booth. They had a decent sized booth, and I could see the new products, and they didn't bring everything they had. And I was like, this works. This is great. I can see it. I can touch it. If
Yeah.
I don't have to stop now by the brand because I've seen it in the distributor booth. I'm good.
Right.
So it's a lot of and I think as things continue to be expensive, and I think that as retailers continue to become more selective as to what they're going to spend their money on because things are too expensive. And it's
Yeah.
like that across the board. And we're not calling it out, vendors as creating the problem. It's transportation, it's it's potential tariffs, it's anything that adds to the cost, manufacturing, whatever. Um,
Shipping costs. I mean, look at shipping costs
yeah,
over the past, 5, 6 years have in some cases doubled.
doubled.
I mean,
Hmm.
it is not something that a lot of folks had on their radar. They're like, okay, it's going up incrementally. No, it has dramatically gone
Yeah.
up to where sometimes it's just not worth shipping below a certain, minimum order. And that was not the case, 5, 6 years ago.
If you want to see the impact that shipping is having overall, go into an eBay, a Poshmark, a ThreadUp, go into any of those sites and look at people completely balking over how much are you charging for shipping?
Right. Right.
Because they're having a cow that shipping can be more than the item. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, we're not in control of that kind of a situation. We charge real shipping or whatever. And and it's part of why some of your bigger online platforms are doing well because you pay a flat fee, once a year and you
Yeah.
get everything, throughout the year shipped to you for free. I don't know how sustainable that is. It just recently went up for Amazon, but people understand the value of that. It's really valuable, especially right now. So if you take all that into account, then you have to realize that retailers, are going to be pickier and choosier about how much they bring in, how many different items, which brands, which retailers they're going to represent. I mean, brands they're going to represent in their retail stores because they only have so much money and their
Right.
consumer only has so much money.
Right.
So all of that trickles down. So I think it's really from a vendor perspective, I think vendors need to go back to the drawing board, sit down and rethink this is how we've always done it, but that doesn't necessarily fit right now. So how do we adjust what fits from an economic, political, whatever, environment that we're living in right now, whatever right now, I mean, you can watch this a year from now and the
Yeah.
same thing will apply. How do we adjust to meet the needs of the retailer and get that ROI? Because that's what it's all about. Even as a retailer, it's all about the ROI. If
Yeah.
I'm investing the time flying out there, paying for the hotel room, and the cost and time away from family and, my store, I'm out of my store, whatever it is, then there has to be an ROI to me too.
Right.
So that all has to be taken into consideration.
Yeah, and I'll add one more just screaming tip for all you vendors out there that set up your booths and spend this time getting your shelving perfectly, your product placed perfectly. Do yourself a favor, take photos of that because the amount of time someone is going to reach back out and go, I don't remember the name of the product. I wrote in my notes real quick, and I want the it was the orange. I know it was orange because I wrote the orange version of it. And to your point earlier, wait, you've got 10 different sizes, 10 different colors.
Mhm.
Which one did we have at the booth that was orange? You know, make sure you're documenting those things. And also, when you're looking at that value of investment or the return on investment, you're able to look back and go, did we set ourselves up for success? Or did we just set ourselves up to be there? And, there's a big difference in that. And you don't know sometimes until you've gone through it and you're doing that post-mortem of what do we really think of this trade show? What do we really get out of it? And one thing that always surprises me, Lauren, is I'll ask the different vendors, so what was your experience? What was it 2 years ago? What was it 3 years ago? Well, we it was good. No. Like, how much did it generate? Well,
They
I
don't
don't,
know.
we don't have a specific number, but we saw a lot of people. Okay, but you could see a lot of people on a vacation. You could see a lot of people on a intended, hey, we're going to barnstorm to some of our top stores or top distributors. Um, I think that's also an area that is interesting to me where I'll be interested on the continued evolution of distributors. Um, they have an opportunity to really position themselves much stronger by bringing some of those brands in and highlighting them within their booths, um, and giving folks an opportunity that maybe no longer they've been priced out because of all these higher costs. So I think that's another interesting twist there. Um,
Well, I think a manufacturer too that has the advantage of being with a distributor, you know, do you have a booth? Do you not have a booth? Because you're already represented in the distributor, and typically in the years past, the brands have had their own booth, and then they say, well, who do you buy through? Do you buy through XYZ? Do you buy through ABC? Okay, can I order direct? No, I only work through a distributor. Why are you here? I could go to the distributor booth and see it.
right.
So that part is a little confusing. The other side of it is, I think for some brands, and I think if you can afford a booth, you want the presence, you want to be there, and you understand the very variable in the ROI, that's great. But if not, think about what you could do with those same funds as sort of a promo for, the retailers that you have to boost sales. If you are going to be at a show, for God's sakes, have at least a 10% for your existing clients. Make some level of appreciation effort for the people who have come out, stopped by your booth, and have been representing your product for years.
Yeah, and it's funny. You just hit on something too, which is, and if you're only going to have your top executives there or the founder there on a particular day, get out in front of that. Let your, retailers know, let the media folks know, hey, we're going to have so and so here on the first and second day, because the amount of times I will tell you that, whether I was on the media side or walking with my retailer friends, and they'd be like, "Oh, I want to stop by because so and so is going to be there." Oh yeah, they were here the first day, and then they're gone.
Right.
Or hear from the publicity people, Rob. We needed you to come by on the first day. Well, I was busy on the first day. What was so? Well, we only had so and so the first day. Probably somebody should have told me,
Yeah.
because now we've missed that opportunity to connect, have that in person, build the relationship, strengthen, what we feel about a product. And there is something unique and special about hearing from the folks at the top that I think is just another one of those quite often missed opportunities.
Well,
So,
and have you ever noticed that a really busy booth gets busier because
oh,
everybody thinks they're missing
yeah,
something? Wait, what's going on? What's going on over here?
it's
And it's
and
like the
I would love
busier
that.
it is, the busier it gets.
It's so funny you say that because I know everybody wants to go bigger with their boot size, and I always be like, I want 43 people jammed into the 10 by 10. It's
Right.
completely uncomfortable, but everybody remembers, like, man, that was the craziest, so busy booth. Now, spread it out. You can get a 20 by 10, of course. But the point being was like, the saddest ones were like, oh my gosh, they've got a basketball court size, booth, and you just got one person there playing, pickup, and that's not great. That's, it just looks empty. Is there no interest in that product, et cetera? And to your point, when you're a vendor, look who's around you, because there are certain booths that are always busy, And while those people are waiting for that to clear out, they're looking around going, is there anything else I want to see on this aisle? Because it's a double-edged sword. One, they're going to have to wait. But two, because they've waited, they're now behind in their own schedule. And so are they going to stop as they're leaving that booth and come by you? So you got to really game plan for
Or
those,
will they come back? Well,
yeah.
and in trade shows, location really matters because if you're out in Timbuktu, I start to go, do I really need to go by that booth?
Well, and I like that you said this, and I know we're going a little bit long with everybody, and this is why, because we want to share these tips. But I also want to point this out too. I do appreciate the trade shows that have the sectioning, but I cringe when when you had mentioned, yeah, oh, I spent my time in the natural, and I'm like, well, that's great, except that the natural often gets bought out by the non-natural companies.
No, I
Um,
said that's where I went first.
Okay. Um, because, and it's the same thing. I love the, new product showcases. And then I look and I'm like, if you've changed the font on your packaging, does that really make it new?
Right.
Um, so, you know, to me, what I love to do was have a game plan of who I'm going to go see and what am I hearing? If you're not doing marketing ahead of time as a vendor out to the attendees, making press releases available, hey, come see us, here's where we're going to be. I mean, with social media, with your own website, with all the rest of that these days, you can get the word out and make sure you're on that list wherever you are, wherever you are on the trade show floor.
Well,
Because,
to that point, they'll say, "Hey, you going to XYZ trade show?" Yeah, I'm going to
yeah,
be there. Oh, great. Come by and see us. Give me a reason.
reason, yes,
I mean, everybody's going to be there. Of course, you're going to be there. I would have expected you to be there. Why do I need to come by and see you? Well, we're going to have
right,
our brand new blah, 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 blah. It's like,
right,
oh, really? Oh, I do want to see that,
yeah,
but just to say I'm there, come by and say hi. Dude, I don't have time to say hi. And you're in my store every month.
right,
So, I'm not coming by for that. But I'll go to Timbuktu if it's a product or a brand that I'm like, I do want to see that.
yeah.
But I'm going to go. The other thing too is if you're a brand, make sure you always have somebody in your booth,
Oh my,
somebody,
yes,
because the
exactly.
number of times I've gone by a booth that is new and I put them on my list to stop by because I wanted to see them. Maybe they weren't in a good location because I've gone up to brands that I'm like, why are you here? You're a freeze dried whatever, and you're with a bunch of cleaning stuff. It's
Right.
like, I didn't know. It was my first time. Okay, well, I came and sought you out, kind of a thing. But if I come by your booth and you're not there, I'm not coming back because there's nothing else in the area that I want to see. And I don't have that much time. I don't have that luxury. So,
Yeah, and if you're a new company, because this is where I run into a lot. If you're a newer company and maybe you're a single proprietor and you're the only person that can be in that booth, network or arrange for somebody to come in to give you that break that you need to go get some lunch. I have had that happen multiple times, and I've been the person many times because I'm interested in those newer brands where I'll say, is it just you? You're going to need a break at some point. Let us know and we'll help you out.
well,
We'll
not
come up.
only that, how about you? All the money you're saving, you're not bringing in another person because it's just you and you're a startup. How about you buy lunch for somebody that's got five people in their booth and say, hey, I'll
Yeah.
buy you lunch if you'll come in and
Yeah.
babysit my
And
booth
you
for
just, yeah,
30
half hours.
minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. No,
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more with you. So many great things. We'll definitely talk more about the trade show world and all that because there are different trade shows. I'd love to get even into that part of it as to how you identify. There's more and more trade shows going on, more regional ones as well. And I like that. I think not only the niche, but the regional is something that I think we'll see an even higher rise to, in particular, because we were
Like
talking
distributor open houses. Yeah, distributor open
exactly.
houses are
Yeah, we wouldn't even
phenomenal. Yeah.
love those. So lots to talk about. Everybody out there, we really appreciate you taking the time with us. We know how busy you are. You've
Thanks,
got
guys.
business to run. Thanks for taking the time with us. We really appreciate here at Practical Pet Business. If you've got something you want to share with us, share your thoughts on trade shows. send us an email to practicalpetchat@gmail.com. Visit us on the web, visit us on your favorite video service, wherever you listen to us, and we continue to hear more and more places. We're trying to put ourselves on all those. It is hard to track, but know that we really appreciate you. We appreciate your feedback. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
The content of this podcast is for informational purposes only. It is not intended as, nor should it be construed as, professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment for your pets. Always seek the advice of a qualified veterinarian with any questions you may have regarding your pet's health or medical condition. Never disregard professional veterinary advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. The hosts and the guests of this podcast are not liable for any actions taken based on the information shared during these episodes. Any reliance on the information provided is solely at your own risk. Copyright 2025 Practical Pet Chat, all rights reserved. Unauthorized duplication, distribution, or reproduction of any content from this podcast, including but not limited to audio, scripts, and show notes, is prohibited without prior written consent. The opinions and views expressed by the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Practical Pet Chat.